I thought I had buried my last connection to my late husband, the dog he adored more than life itself. My sister-in-law swore she'd put him down while I was out of town. I mourned that dog as deeply as I mourned my husband. But a week later, I looked out my kitchen window and saw something impossible. A dirt-covered dog, my husband's dog, digging a hole in my backyard like he had crawled out of the grave itself. When my husband died, the world around me dimmed in a way I still struggle to describe. His laughter, his warmth, even the way he'd leave coffee rings on the kitchen counter. Every tiny annoyance became a relic I desperately wished I could experience just one more time. But the hardest part wasn't the silence in our home. It was watching Domino, our golden retriever, wait at the door every evening as if his master might still walk through it. Domino wasn't just a dog. He was a piece of my husband's heart. They were inseparable, on hikes, at the lake, even during grocery runs. My husband used to joke that if he ever died first, Domino would keep me safe. Back then, I'd just slap his shoulder and tell him to shut up. I didn't think life could be that cruel or ironic. Turns out, it could. Domino grew weaker after my husband passed. He barely ate, he barely moved. And then things got worse. Seizures, trouble standing, whimpering through the night. The vet said it was advanced lymphoma. They recommended putting him down to give him peace. Those words tore through me like knives. I kept refusing. I wasn't ready. Domino was the last living thing in this house that still remembered my husband's voice. But then everything shifted when I had to leave town for a 3-day work training I couldn't get out of. My husband's sister, my sister-in-law, Maddie, offered to stay with Domino. She said she knew how much he meant to us. She said she'd take care of everything. On the second day of my trip, she called me with a shaky voice, claiming Domino had collapsed and started seizing uncontrollably. She said the vet said there was nothing more they could do. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "He was suffering. I had to make the call." I remember sinking onto the floor of the hotel room, my phone slipping from my hand, everything inside me cracking open again like a wound I had barely stitched shut. She told me she buried him in the small patch of woods behind her house. She even sent a picture of a simple wooden marker. I cried until my throat burned. When I came home, the house felt wrong, too empty, too hollow. I kept feeling like Domino would trot around the corner or scratch at the back door. For days, I found myself waking up in the middle of the night, expecting to hear his whine, but there was only silence. I told myself I had to accept it. I had to grieve him the way I grieved my husband. A week passed, then 2, then 3. Slowly, painfully, I started making peace with the idea that my home was now a quiet place filled with ghosts of memories. It was a Saturday afternoon when it happened. I was standing at the kitchen sink washing dishes, just zoning out the way you do when your mind drifts into the past. The window above the sink overlooked the backyard, just an ordinary patch of grass, a few rose bushes, and an old oak tree. But then, movement. Something low to the ground, something digging. I leaned forward. My fingers froze on the soapy plate. There, paws flinging dirt in every direction, was a golden retriever, but not just any retriever. A golden retriever with the exact same white patch on the chest that Domino had, the same worn, fraying red collar he'd scratched up over the years, the same limping front leg from an old hiking injury. My breath tangled in my throat. That couldn't be. That was impossible. I dropped the plate. It shattered at my feet, but I barely jumped. My eyes were locked on the dog, his tail wagging low, his ears pinned back in that guilty way Domino always had when he knew he wasn't supposed to dig in the yard. Domino. The name escaped my mouth without permission, cracking like a whisper peeling out of a dream. The dog froze. Slowly, almost cautiously, he lifted his head from the hole. His muzzle was covered in dirt. His eyes, God, those warm, liquid brown eyes that knew my husband better than anyone else. they met mine. And his tail started wagging. I didn't realize I was crying until my vision blurred. I pushed open the back door, stumbling barefoot into the grass. Domino! Domino! I fell to my knees as he ran at me full speed, letting out a strangled, joyful bark as if the last month had never happened. He slammed into me, whining, licking my face, pressing his head into my chest. I clutched him, hard. My hands shook as I buried my fingers in his fur. He felt real, solid, warm, alive. How? How are you here? I whispered into his neck. You were sick. Maddie said... My mind swirled with disbelief and confusion, and something darker I couldn't quite name yet. My sister-in-law had told me she put him down. She had told me he was buried behind her house. She had told me he was gone. Yet here he was, alive. But as I hugged him, something else caught my eye. The hole he had been digging, there was something in it, something white, something that didn't look like a bone or a stick. My stomach turned. I moved closer with Domino pressed to my side, still whining happily. I leaned over the hole. It was a plastic bag, a large, dirt-covered plastic bag, the kind you'd use to store something you didn't want people to see. And something inside it, shaped, heavy, shifted when the dog nudged it. A chill spilled down my spine. Domino hadn't been digging randomly. He was digging something up. And right as that thought clawed through my mind, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. When I pulled it out, the screen lit up with Maddie's name. My heart stopped. I hadn't told her I was home. I hadn't told her anything. Yet here she was, calling. I wiped my face with my sleeve, swallowed hard, and answered. Before I could say hello, her voice burst through the speaker, sharp, frantic. "Where are you?" I'm home, I said slowly. "Maddie, listen, something happened." She cut me off. "Get inside. Lock your doors. Do not go in the backyard." My chest tightened. Why? What's going on? But her next words made every hair on my neck rise. Because Domino wasn't supposed to be there. I stared at the dog, leaning against my leg, whimpering softly for attention. "Maddie," I whispered, "what did you do?" There was a long pause on her end, a terrifying, shaky breath. "I never put him down," she confessed, "and whatever he's digging up, you need to come inside right now." My pulse thundered in my ears as I slowly backed toward the house, Domino nudging me with his snout. "What's in that bag, Maddie?" Silence. Then, barely audible. Something I should have buried deeper. The call ended, and I was left staring at the half-unearthed plastic bag with my supposedly dead dog whimpering beside me, and the sinking dread that this story went far deeper than I ever imagined. Domino wouldn't leave my side as I backed into the house, my hand shaking so badly I could barely turn the lock on the sliding door. The moment it clicked shut, he pressed his body against my legs like he used to do when thunderstorms rattled the windows. His fur smelled like dirt and damp leaves, but under that, the faint, familiar warmth I used to bury my face into whenever I felt the world slipping away after my husband died. I slid down onto the floor, my breath uneven. Domino immediately curled his body around mine, licking the salt from my cheeks as if trying to reassure me that yes, he was real, yes, he was alive, yes, this wasn't some grief-induced hallucination. But the truth was harsher, colder. Maddie lied about Domino, about what happened, about that bag he was digging up. I don't know how long I sat there, minutes, an hour. My heartbeat was still thundering in my ears when my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text. "Maddie, please don't go near that bag. I'm coming over. Do not touch it." A chill ran through me. I didn't respond, couldn't. Instead, I stared at the dirt on Domino's paws, the same paws she claimed were buried underground weeks ago. My mind tried to arrange the pieces in some kind of order, something that made sense, But every possibility only made my stomach twist tighter. Why would she lie? Why would she say he was dead? What was in that bag? Domino nudged my hand again, and I shakily scratched behind his ear, his favorite spot. He leaned into it with a soft groan of pleasure. That tiny sound cracked me more than anything. I pressed my forehead against his. "Where did you go?" I whispered. "What did she do to you?" He just sighed and placed a paw on my knee. I eventually forced myself up. My legs were weak, my breath uneven. I filled Domino's bowl with food, actual food, and he devoured it like he hadn't eaten in days. Maybe he hadn't. Another tremor of fear rippled through me. I kept glancing out the window at the mound of disturbed dirt. The plastic bag glistened faintly under the late afternoon sun. I thought about calling the cops, but what would I say? My dog came back from the dead and dug up something my sister-in-law buried in my yard? They'd think I'd lost my mind. The sound of tires crunching on gravel snapped me out of the spiral. A dark green SUV pulled into my driveway faster than it should have. Maddie stepped out before it had fully stopped. Her hair was messy, her eyes wild, like she hadn't slept in days. She didn't knock. She stormed to the back door and tried to yank it open, but the lock held. I met her gaze through the glass. For a moment, she just stared, her breath fogging the pain, her eyes flicking from me to Domino sitting beside me, then back to me. Her face drained of color. "Oh, God," she mouthed. I opened the door just a crack. "Start talking." She pushed her way inside, shutting the door behind her like she was afraid something outside might follow her in, or maybe something inside might get out. Her gaze immediately locked onto Domino, alive, alert, tail cautiously wagging. "I can explain," she whispered. I said, my voice shaking with fury. "You told me you put him down. You told me he was buried. You sent me a picture." Her lip trembled. "I had to." "No, you chose to." Maddie wrapped her arms around herself, her shoulders shaking. "You don't understand what happened. You weren't here. You didn't see." "Then tell me." My voice rose despite me. "Tell me why my dog is alive. Tell me what you lied about, and tell me what the hell he dug up in my yard." For a long moment, she just stood there, breathing like she was drowning. Then she sank onto a dining chair, clutching the edge of the table. "Domino didn't die from lymphoma," she finally said. The room spun. What? He didn't collapse from sickness. He didn't have a seizure. None of that happened. I felt cold. "Then why did you say it?" She let out a shaky exhale. "Because something else happened. Something I didn't know how to tell you." Domino suddenly growled, low, protective. Maddie's eyes widened, and she scooted her chair back instinctively. "That day," she began, "I took him for a walk by the river. I thought the fresh air might help him. He was tired, yes, but he wasn't dying. He was just grieving. We both were." Her voice cracked. But then a car pulled up, a black sedan. 2 men got out. A knot formed in my throat. "Men? What men?" "They asked about your husband." Her eyes flicked to me. "And Domino. They said your husband owed them something important, something they were willing to hurt for." My blood went ice cold. "No," I whispered. "My husband didn't. He wasn't." "You think you know everything about the man you love," she snapped suddenly, her voice breaking. "But you don't. I didn't either." I shook my head violently. "He wasn't involved in anything illegal." "I thought so too," she whispered. "But those men, they knew details, things no one outside the family could have known. They said someone sent them to retrieve what he left behind, something he hid." I sat down without realizing it. Domino pressed closer. "What does this have to do with him?" I asked, my voice thin. "They said Domino would lead them to it." My heart lurched. "Because your husband always took him with him," she whispered. "Because Domino knew his hiding spots. They said they'd been watching, that they followed you home after the funeral, that they knew Domino was the key."
My breath quickened. Maddie, what did they do? Her eyes glossed with tears. Domino barked at them. He lunged when they came too close. They grabbed him. They said they'd take him instead, that they'd force him to lead them. She swallowed hard. I panicked. I begged them to leave him. I said I'd find it myself. I'd handle it. Her voice cracked open like a snapped bone. They told me to prove it. They said if I didn't, they'd come back for you next. I felt the world tilt. So I lied, she whispered. I told them Domino died. I showed them a fake grave I dug myself. I sent you the picture so you wouldn't ask questions. I needed you to believe it. They needed to believe it. I stared at her in horror. You buried that bag in my yard? She nodded, trembling. I found something in the storage shed your husband kept locked, something in a metal box. I didn't open it. I didn't want to know. I just needed to hide it until I figured out what to do. I thought your yard would be safer. They wouldn't suspect it. They thought Domino died. They stopped watching. And Domino, I let him go. Tears streamed now. Out in the woods. I thought he'd wander off, maybe find another home. I didn't want those men tracking him. You abandoned him, I whispered, my voice breaking. I saved him, she cried. I saved you both. Domino barked sharply, stepping between us. Maddie flinched. I'm sorry, she whispered. I thought he was gone. I thought he'd never come back. I thought we were safe. I rose slowly from the chair. Then what's in the bag? I demanded. She shook her head. I don't know, but whatever it is, they wanted it desperately, enough to threaten us, enough to take Domino. My stomach twisted. And now Domino dug it up, she whispered, which means, as if on cue, a shadow passed across the kitchen window. All three of us froze. Domino stiffened, his fur rising along his spine. A guttural growl rumbled in his chest. Another shadow moved, then another. Footsteps crunched on the gravel outside, slow, heavy, intentional. Maddie's face went white as bone. They're here, she breathed. The doorknob rattled. I grabbed Domino's collar. The front door creaked. Then a low male voice drifted through the crack. Lady, we know you found it. My blood froze solid, and we're not leaving without it.
The voice on the other side of the door didn't sound rushed or angry. It was calm, too calm. A controlled, steady tone that sent a violent shiver up my spine. People who spoke like that weren't bluffing. They weren't emotional. They weren't afraid. They were certain. Domino barked, sharp and vicious, lunging toward the entrance. His hackles shot up like bristles, his teeth bared in the snarl I had never seen from him. He had always been gentle, goofy even, but now he was the animal my husband always joked about. He'll protect you. He'll know when it matters. And it mattered now more than it ever had. Maddie pressed herself against the wall, her breath coming in short, frantic bursts. We need to go, she whispered. There's a back window in the guest room. We can slip out, get to the woods. A fist pounded the door, hard. I flinched. We don't want trouble, the voice said again, but you have something that belongs to us. Maddie grabbed my arm. Please, please, we can't let them inside. Hold on, I whispered, forcing myself to breathe. Where's the metal box? She closed her eyes, trembling. In the bag, that's what they want. If I give it to them, I whispered, will they leave? No, she said without hesitation. People like that don't leave loose ends. The front door thumped again, this time harder. A second voice hissed something I couldn't hear. Domino growled. My heart slammed against my ribs so violently I thought it might crack them. My mind raced. I had two options, escape or hide. But escape felt impossible. They were already surrounding the house. I could hear footsteps circling the side, slow and deliberate. They were closing in. I grabbed Domino's collar again, holding him close even though his muscles strained, ready to defend. Okay, I whispered, my voice shaking. We move, now. We darted down the hallway toward the guest room, Maddie in front, Domino at my side, breath hot with adrenaline and fear. We didn't get far. A window shattered down the hall, glass exploding inward like a shotgun blast. Domino lunged toward the sound, barking furiously. "Go, go," Maddie screamed. We sprinted to the guest room. She slid the window open, the old wooden frame groaning under the pressure. Another thud sounded, this time from the back door. They were coming from every side. Out, Maddie shoved me toward the window. Domino hesitated, torn between staying to protect and following me. I grabbed his face gently and whispered, "Come on, boy." He whined, but leapt through the opening beside me. We landed in the cold grass outside, the air sharp against my skin. Maddie scrambled out behind us. We crouched low, sticking close to the shadow of the house. My hands were still trembling uncontrollably. Domino pressed his body against mine. "Where's the bag?" I whispered. Maddie pointed toward the backyard, by the oak tree. "We can circle wide." A flashlight beam cut across the lawn, sweeping back and forth like a predator searching for prey. I froze. A man stepped into view, tall, broad, wearing a dark coat. He scanned the yard slowly. Maddie clamped a hand over her mouth. "Did you check the back?" he called out. "Yeah," another voice answered. "Nothing yet." The first man exhaled, annoyed. "Dog tracks everywhere." My stomach twisted. "Keep looking," he barked. Domino stiffened, and I gently pressed his head down. If they saw him, we were finished. Maddie leaned close. The woods, now. We crawled along the side of the house, moving inch by inch, keeping our bodies as low as possible. Every crunch of gravel or snap of twigs made my blood pressure spike. We slipped between two rose bushes at the far edge of the yard and darted toward the tree line. Domino stayed pressed to my leg, miraculously quiet. The woods swallowed us in darkness. Only once we were deep enough that the house faded behind branches did we finally stop. I bent over, gasping for breath, clutching Domino's collar. Maddie grabbed my shoulders, her eyes wide, even in the dark. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They'll search everywhere. They'll find the bag." "Then what?" I choked out. She didn't answer. The night air felt thick, heavy, alive with danger. I could hear the men's footsteps, the rustle of leaves, the low murmur of their voices drifting faintly from the yard. I clenched my fists. "We need a plan." "There is no plan," Maddie hissed. "We ran because we had no other choice. But we can't stay out here forever. They're going to search the woods, too." Domino suddenly perked up, ears forward. A moment later, we heard it, rustling, close, too close. "Someone's coming," I whispered. We ducked behind a fallen log, just as a flashlight beam pierced the trees like a blade. Someone was sweeping the forest with slow, measured steps. Domino growled softly. I wrapped my arms around him tightly, my face buried in his neck. "Shush, please, boy." The light moved on. My heart stopped, but Domino stayed silent, his muscles trembling violently beneath me. The light moved on. We waited, frozen, afraid to breathe. After what felt like a lifetime, the footsteps faded. Maddie finally whispered, "We can't keep doing this." "We don't have a choice," I murmured. "Not until we figure out what's in that box." Maddie hesitated. You want to open it?" Domino whined softly. I looked toward the faint glow of the house lights flickering between the trees. Men were still moving around out there, searching, hunting. "I want to know what my husband died for," I whispered. "I want to know what they think he left behind." Maddie swallowed. "If we go back, they'll catch us." "Not if we move fast," I said. "We grab the bag and run." Maddie shook her head frantically. "This is insane." "It's the only way." Domino nudged my hand, as if agreeing. His presence grounded me, strengthened me. He had found that bag for a reason. Maybe he was trying to tell us something. We crept back toward the house, slow, cautious, staying deep within the tree shadows. Through the branches, we saw two men searching the rose bushes, another pacing by the driveway, talking on a phone. Domino tugged me gently forward, toward the oak tree. I followed. In a low crouch, we moved behind the garden shed, staying hidden until we reached the edge of the yard's shadow. The bag was still there, half exposed in the dirt. My pulse hammered.
I reached out and grabbed it. The plastic crackled loudly. A flashlight beam swung toward us instantly. "Hey, over there! Run!" I screamed. We bolted toward the woods. Domino sprinted at my side, barking furiously. Shouts erupted behind us. Branches snapped. Footsteps thundered after us. "Don't let them get away." My lungs burned, my legs screaming as we tore through the trees. "We need to split up," Maddie gasped. "They can't follow both of us." "No," I yelled. "We stay together." Domino suddenly veered right, barking. I followed his lead instinctively. Behind us, one of the men shouted, "I see them." Another beam cut through the darkness. Domino barked again, loud, sharp, then suddenly dashed ahead, pulling us toward an old fallen tree trunk wedged over a ravine. It formed a natural bridge, narrow, slick, with moss. "Are you crazy?" Maddie yelled. "We'll fall." But Domino leapt onto the log and ran across like it was nothing. We didn't have time to think. I grabbed the bag tighter, then bolted after him. The log wobbled. I flung my arms out for balance, my heart punching through my ribs. Maddie followed behind me, sobbing with fear. Halfway across, a gunshot cracked through the trees. The wood splintered near my foot. "Go!" I screamed. We reached the other side and collapsed onto the dirt. Domino barked from the bluff's edge. The men reached the log, but stopped. The ravine was too deep, too dangerous. They shouted curses, shining lights at us, but none dared to cross. "We'll find you," they yelled. "You can't hide forever." But for now, they were stuck. Domino nudged the plastic bag with his snout. My hands trembled as I pulled it open. Inside was the metal box, heavy, cold, dented from being buried. A combination lock held it shut, but taped to the top was an envelope. My breath caught. My name was written on it, in my husband's handwriting. Maddie gasped. "Oh my God." With shaking fingers, I tore the envelope open. Inside was a short letter. My husband's voice echoed in every word. "If you're reading this, I failed to protect you. But Domino can. He knows where to take you. Follow him. And whatever you do, don't trust anyone else." I stared at the last line until the ink blurred through my tears. Maddie whispered, "What does it mean?" Before I could answer, Domino barked once, sharply, and started trotting deeper into the woods. Not running, not panicking, leading, just like the letter said. I took a deep breath, grabbed the box, wiped my tears, and followed my dog into the dark. Wherever he was taking us, whatever secret my husband left behind, we were about to find out.